6 o'clock, we're going to call the January 22nd meeting to order. If you will, the Karen Watford will have the invocation and the pledge to the flag.
Dear Heavenly Father and Lord of all, tonight and always, we thank you for your blessings and for your love for us, for we are sinful people. As we deliberate as commissioners, we ask for wisdom in making our decisions and humility as we approach the work of the county. In James, we read, "The Lord giveth wisdom, out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. He layeth up sound wisdom for the righteous." Lord, lay your wisdom upon us. We praise you and recognize your majesty. In your holy name, amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight, and we got a lot of items on the agenda, but I think we can go through them pretty fast. And when you do get ready to go home, if the weather's bad out there, be careful, because I noticed already the road's down already. Tonight for our recognitions, team leadership is being represented here tonight by Tara Oldtaker. Tara's here, I believe. Yes. Good to have you here. We've got Mike Christopherson representing the Davidson County Chambers. Are there any other recognitions you know of? Okay, I want to recognize, let's see, Zeb, I guess you'll lead this off on a recognition for the teaching scholarships.
Well, I'll defer that to Commissioner Crotts. He's on that committee.
Okay.
And we'll let him pick off of that.
I don't think she's here tonight, but just so everyone knows that Davidson County has a teaching scholarship program. So any of our youth that graduates high school that go on to pursue a teaching degree, they can apply for a scholarship. And as long as they'll come back and teach for 2 years at a Davidson County school, so it could be one of the city schools or county schools, they can get this scholarship. So without further ado, I'm going to read it, even though she isn't here. She's at school tonight. But it is my privilege and honor to announce a $5,000 scholarship, or Davidson County Teaching Scholarship, has been awarded for the fall application period for Miss Kate Stone, a graduate of South Davidson High School and a sophomore at Appalachian State University. She is pursuing a Bachelor of Science degree, career, and technical education, and in family and consumer sciences. Her first check is for $2,500, and she'll receive a second $2,500 check in January of next year. The Davidson County Teaching Scholarship is intended to encourage residents of Davidson County who will attend college to teach to come back and teach here. Two of the requirements is that you must have a GPA of at least 2.8 and agree to teach for at least 3 years at one of our 3 school systems or an approved private school in Davidson County. So if you see Katie, let her know congratulations. She's well deserved. We have a lot of students that do that. From here on out, Commissioner Watford will serve on that scholarship, and look forward to seeing what the future holds. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach.
All right, Mr. Chairman, now we have another recognition. We have with us tonight Mr. Jerry Sink, if you've been keeping up with the dispatch. Mr. Sink has served this community for over 50 years with the Davidson Rescue Squad. Probably sees us a lot of times when we need him the most and we're not in good shape, and we're grateful for all his service to this county. At this time, I'm going to turn it back to Commissioner Crotts for the resolution, what words he has to say.
Well, I don't see the resolution sitting here.
I got it.
Do you? Okay. Thank you. Resolution in appreciation of Jerry Sink. Whereas Jerry Sink should be recognized for being an outstanding citizen of Davidson County in the state of North Carolina. And whereas this year marks 50 years of service by Mr. Sink as a member of the Davidson County Rescue Squad, serving the citizens of Davidson County with dedication and pride. And whereas Mr. Sink has gained the admiration and respect of his fellow squad members and the citizens of his community. Whereas Mr. Sink is an experienced authority figure among Davidson County Rescue Squad members and is highly respected by his peers. Due to his institutional knowledge, he is thought to have a continuous source of wisdom and guidance for not only the other members, but also Rescue Squad administration. And whereas Mr. Sink has also served as a paramedic, receiving the coveted Order of the Longleaf Pine in 2016 for his dedicated service to the citizens of Davidson County. And whereas throughout his 50 years of service to Davidson County, Mr. Sink has exhibited sound judgment and concern for the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Davidson County in the state of North Carolina and his decision-making skills. Whereas his service to the citizens of Davidson County has been given willfully and selflessly, and he has greatly contributed to the success of Davidson County Rescue Squad. He is being awarded this recognition as a testimonial to his dedicated service to the county. Now, there it be resolved, the Davidson County Board of Commissioners do hereby extend the board's appreciation to Jerry Sink and honor him for his loyal service and dedication to the citizens of Davidson County, and urge all to extend congratulations to him and extend best wishes for many happy and productive years in the future. This 22nd day, January 2019.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept this, adopt this resolution?
I make a motion. Second.
Second. You cast your vote.
Throat got dry.
At this time, Mr. Chairman, we'd like Mr. Sink to come up and get
Yeah,
his
is
with
Mr.
us.
Sink here? Come on up.
Crawford and Elliott, can I get your votes, please?
They take their time.
Mm-hmm.
Stand up. That's no lie.
Gotta stand up again, John.
3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Mr. Sink, do you wanna say anything?
Do you have any words?
Do you,
Well, I don't like.
do you wanna say?
I'd like to say thank you to everyone that did this, gratitude for all the members of the squad, and my wife, Bertie, and my family. She's good time and supported me. And, I guess, first of all, thank our dear Lord for giving us this chance, so, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the registration for the public address, so if you haven't registered for public address and want to speak tonight, you need to sign up now. We're gonna do that in just a minute. Number 6 is the adoption of the agenda. Is there, let's see, there's been a request to add a budget amendment to the, from the Health Department to the, budget amendments on the agenda. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the agenda with the addition of the Health Department budget transfer.
Second.
Have a motion second, if you'll vote. Case, anything there?
I have your vote, Commissioner, I got your motion.
Me?
Commissioner Yates, thank you. All of the votes are in,
Nothing?
and that motion carries 7-0.
All right, next item is the public address. We don't have anyone here signed up for the public address. I do wanna say that Barney Hill from Thomasville gave me his remarks here to be added to our, minutes of the meeting, so I'll put them in the public address, section. Item 8 is the items for consent. To have, any items that anyone wants to remove from consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I request that item 8L be removed.
Okay, item 8L. Okay, do I have a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 8L?
Motion to approve the amended consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, cast your vote.
All of the votes are in, and that motion carries 7-0.
Item 8L is support of the Davidson County Schools resolution on local control of school calendar.
Mr. Chairman, while I do support this resolution, there's some whereases within this resolution that that are subject to a lot of debate. I don't want this vote, my vote, to represent that I support all the whereases within the resolution. However, with that said, I do support the resolution as it gives the power to the local people here, instead of having to deal with a federal or state bureaucracy. Thank you, sir.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the, that item?
Motion.
To approve.
Second.
Cast your vote.
Hopefully this time it'll go through Raleigh and pass. We've tried it, what, the second or third time?
And that motion carries 7-0.
Okay, where we at? Okay. Item 9, this is deliberation. Before we start the deliberation, we're gonna take about 1 minute to get everything set up, so go ahead, whatever you wanna do, Ron.
Time's up.
I think they're gonna want us down here or something.
You want us down front?
Yes, please. Move down front here.
Line up for autograph, Wayne.
There you go.
Chuck and I gonna duck.
It's not working so quick, but I can maybe contact battery.
Get them out here. I want that tie. Yes, sir.
Right here, y'all can spread out like you are sitting. Like this, right here.
Just about right, because the mic's right in front of that camera.
Yeah. While he's setting up, thank you, Commissioners, for allowing us to come tell you that Davidson Water is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And more events will be happening. In fact, I'm announcing that our Public Member Day at the Davidson Water corporate offices, and we'll have plant tours at our water plant between Lexington and Mossville on Coots Road on May the 18th, Saturday, May 18th. And other events will be held throughout the year. And part of our publication and media exposure will be a video. So, you're watching us start our celebration by creating this video, and we want you part of the video. That's a good little sports coach. I did. So,
You want me to read that for you, no?
keep in mind that this one makes sense in the larger video, okay? As you know, Davidson Water is member-owned structure of probably about 70% of Davidson County. So we're glad to be here, and we're glad to partner with Davidson County. And right here, Don, we'll practice this, get a sound check.
Hi, I am Don Truitt, Chairman of the Davidson County Board of Commissioners. Congratulations on 50 years.
And then all together, I'll kill you. We are Davidson Water. And kind of do like this, if you feel like it, that'd be great.
And then make sure you don't stand up that far, you were in the frame.
Right. Can you still see it, Don?
All right, we're ready.
Go on your cue.
All right, go.
Hi, I'm Don Truitt, Chairman of the Davidson County Board of Commissioners. Congratulations on 50 years.
We are Davidson Water. All right, thank y'all very much.
We'll get
I think
one
that's
more?
good. Yeah, let's do one more.
Yeah, let's go and do one more.
We did it all right.
Yeah, and you can pause. Yeah. We'll take the best one.
Hi, I'm Don Truitt, Chairman of the Davidson County Board of Commissioners. Congratulations on 50 years.
We are Davidson Water.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Y'all need
to autograph
Stephen County attorneys were the royalty rights, okay?
Danny?
Remember that? What?
I said, the first time we started the.
Don't you hit
Yeah, I did. Well, I did it twice, but then when the second.
You know, they need to put our name on the back of these things. I can't figure out, I gotta count 1, 2, 3 before I know where to
So several times after that, I had to do it, I put sticky notes right here, and said, I pledge. Every time I had to do the prayer, I did that for a long time, until I wasn't nervous.
I'll tell you, from writing a book that I'll.
sit. Debbie, we don't do anything else.
First time I ever had to do something.
We don't do anything else.
Gonna say I am
retaining
Well, I did, and I screwed up several times. Well, that first time I did it, I broke out in a sweat. And
Item
I just knew-
9B, we're down to 9B now. Courtroom complex presentation by Ramsey Bergen Smith Architects. Zeb, I guess this will be yours.
Yeah, yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we have, Dan Norman and, Bill Bergen with Ramsey Bergen Smith here. As you know, back earlier, the board chose to look at option F in the courthouse project. We've been through several renditions of that. We've been back and forth with, the folks at the courthouse to kind of make sure it's laid out to their liking as well. And so, they're gonna present to you where we are so far. And I guess we're just looking from a little bit of direction to the board, or they want us to bring back financing options for this, or what next step you want staff to take. So, and I'm gonna slide over here so I can see it, so if you got questions, I'll yell from over there, so.
It's also gonna be on the screens, right?
Oh, okay.
All right, we're good? First of all, let me tell you, Mr. Chairman and Commission, thank you for allowing us to make a presentation today. We've been working on this for, I don't know how many months now, but, our assignment was to, show options on how the court could expand and courtroom and jail expanded, and we did that. And we have a scheme that we were to try to kind of give you an idea of what that scheme might look like. The main assignment was the program, in which case we went to all the different departments and talked to everybody that's involved, that's going to be in the courthouse, to get what they need. And we came back, we had a plan. The commission said we needed to do a little bit of tightening of our belt, and we went back to the group, and we have done that. And then we made a third pass just because we wanted to be sure we'd cover all the bases. And so everybody has seen this plan in terms of how it programs out. So I just want to quickly go over that, and then if you have questions, I'll answer them. This is the site plan that will end up, and to kind of get you oriented. The older part of the courthouse is here. This is Center Street going this way, and then the new part of the courthouse is from here back. So what we're basically doing in this scheme is filling in between those two buildings, so that all that building now will be under one roof. In terms of site work, we'll we're proposing to demolish the annex building and the first building behind it.
Can you hang on a second, Bill, till, Karen has a seat?
Yes.
She hasn't seen this.
Let me ask you one question while you're there. Where would the Register of Deeds office be on this?
It's gonna be where it is now.
Well, I said, where is it
It
now?
would be right here.
Okay,
underneath it, yeah.
okay.
In fact, it would be there.
Okay.
So anyway, the annex building is being proposed to be demolished and the first building behind it. We need that from a construction standpoint because we have to stage material. And so that'll be used for staging material while this building gets constructed and then while the renovation is going on. The H building, we call it, I don't know what it's called, but it's now got juvenile, it will stay juvenile. I think you're fixing that up for juvenile, so that's what that would end up staying. Since this building takes the parking lot that's there now, we will be building back after we finish construction, another parking lot to try to take and put back those spaces that you lost because of the construction. This back here is the parking you have now. We are going to try to add a little bit here that can be secured so that the judges and maybe the DA and maybe the clerk could drive into a place that at least has a fence around it and go into a secure door as opposed to just being out in the public. So that's how the site works. The first floor is here. That's the Register of Deeds. It's just like it is now. He was happy with his space and so he said, if you just leave me alone, we're fine. And then all of this pink area that's here would be the new clerk's office. And all of the programming that he was expecting is there. That's the exact size of what everybody's expectation was. So what will happen on this floor is you'll come in from Center Street through security and you will be immediately facing the clerk's office so that you can get to the clerk's office real quick. To get to the Register of Deeds, you'll go down this hallway, which is the public hallway, and it's in effect the same as walking across the parking lot. The only difference is you're inside in conditioned space, and you come past security. So it's a little better arrangement. The sheriff's office is going to take some existing spaces in the lower level of the existing original courthouse building. He's going to also take a little bit here on the lower floor, so that he likes this space. In fact, that was one of the last adjustments we made, so that if he has a call from courtroom A or B, he can get to that space quickly to help. And if you get, which is way down here, courtrooms D and E, I believe, he's at least in the center, so he can get to there as fast as possible. So we were able to accommodate that. He's going to use that space as is. There won't be really any money other than kind of clean up, maybe paint a little bit for that. So the clerk now will be in this space. Register of Deeds will stay just like it is. On the next floor up, this will be all of the courtrooms. And you can go from the furthest courtroom here to the furthest courtroom here, all indoor in control space, so nobody has to go outside again.
That picture hadn't changed.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay. So right now, these are your two smaller courtrooms. You've got a large courtroom here, and the DA is kind of located in this area here. And then in the older parts, you've got two courtroom spaces here, and the clerk is located here. So what it's going to change to is we will be adding in this new addition a small courtroom and a large courtroom, a jury pool, and a grand jury room. So that'll be new courtroom space that will be built in this. And then we'll have a place for a future smaller courtroom and a future large courtroom, so that when the time comes for you to add those to your inventory, you don't have to build a building, you just have to upfit it. So initially you'll gain 2 courtrooms, and then you could get up to 4 when you finish those other 2. So that's what's happening here. Again, once you come up to this second floor, and you can come up this monumental stair or through 2 elevators, then you can go down that hallway just like you do now to all these courtrooms on this side, or you can go this way and get to courtroom A and B. And we're going to build a hallway in front of the existing original courthouse. and we'll show you an elevation of what that looks like. But again, the purpose for that is that everybody can move around in these courtrooms and not go outside. So that once you come past security, you're inside and you can maneuver from one courtroom to the next without going outside. We will do a mediation arbitration courtroom here in the old clerk's space. So it is in a courtroom and it's on the courtroom floor. And then we'll have a cashier here for the clerk. He said that he can get a cashier on that second level on the far end. He thinks that would serve the public better, and so we're gonna carve out a little space here. Then the sheriff will take basically the rest of that, and we're gonna use a little bit of this space where the clerk's office is at this point to help the magistrate a little bit, because they're in real cramped corners, and so we're gonna try to. Now, the real solution for the magistrate is when you do the jail, but for right now, this will give them a little more space. They can, have a place that's a little more overnight.
Bill, could you explain the ADA accessibility?
Yes. You can go from this parking lot that we've added here, accessible route, straight in to the front door. So that's accessible. So you're inside, and from there, you can go down and get one of two elevators to get to the next floor up. The other option is, on the second floor, you still have access for ADA in the back. So once you're on this floor, all these floors will be accessible. Now, we do have a ramp, because each of these floors are a little different, but we do have a ramp so that you can literally go from this end of the courthouse all the way around to this end, ADA compliant. So we feel good about the compliance, and I will tell you that when we send this down to Raleigh, to the Department of Insurance, they will back check us to be sure that we are in compliance.
How many entrances and exits do you have?
We have two secure entrances, exits, one on the front, Center Street, and the one in the back that you have now.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have two. Now, we do have exits that we have to do for life safety. They are going to be alarmed. And we have an exit that will be at the end of this hall, which is basically to take the place of the one that we have now. So that will be an exit with an alarm. And then we have an exit through these stair towers, one here and one here, that again will go through an alarm door. So that if somebody opens it, there'll be an alarm that sounds, and hopefully the sheriff then will trace where that is. And then you've got two doors back here, of course. One is secure, the other one is just an exit.
And the center hallway, is that secured as it is now, the same center hallway that you have now?
Yes.
So they can get inmates in and out of the courtrooms without going into the public space?
Yes. Now, the secure hallway as it is now has both the court judges and DAs and lawyers and prisoners. In an ideal world, you would have two separate ones for each of that group, but this works out, apparently it's working fine. And so you get from any of the courtrooms through this secure hallway without going into the public space. And for the grand jury and for the jury pool, the public can come into the jury pool from the public side, but they can leave on the secure side. So as the court judges ask for so many potential jurors, they will go through the secure side. So we've got that worked out really well. The grand jury is on the secure side. So we think that's...
When you talk about the space for future courtrooms there, the two white spaces there,
This one is...
what will be in that until it is used as courtroom, and what's in there?
It will just be open. In other words, it'll be concrete floor. You'll see the structure when you look up. It may have a mechanical unit hanging, but no ductwork. And there'll be enough light so that if you step in there, you won't be in the dark. You'll have a light on. So that's generally all we do for those two spaces. This space will have the courtroom and have the jury room and maybe a bathroom for the juries here. And then this one will have the same thing, except this one has the judges' chambers already built. This one will also include building the judges' chamber in that future stuff. So when you do a courtroom, you don't just do the courtroom, you do support space with it. And then on the next floor, the third floor, it's a 3-story building. We have 4 functions. We have the district court judges here. We'll build 4 district court judges' offices initially, and you'll have, future for 4 more.
You don't have anybody pointing that out, could you, at least, tell them what color that is?
Yeah, okay, that's the yellow, color over there. And again, that's district court. It has, 4 district court judge offices now, and the support that takes, and then it has the ability for 4 more, when the time comes. You can grow them however fast you need to. Superior Court has, 2 now, but we also have space for 2 more. And we, depending on how it grows, you may just add 1 Superior Court and another clerical support person, just however you need it. But you have room for 2 offices, basically. So the concept was you could get up to 4 Superior Court judges in that space. The DA is in 2 places. It's on the 2nd floor where it is now, and then you'll have this section up here on this floor for the remainder of the DA. So the DA, even though we tried at one time to get them all in one space, we are able to get them in one building. It's just that they'll be on 2 floors. But there is a secure elevator back here and a secure passage back here. So the DA and the judges can get to that and go down to the courtroom without going to the other side. So we think that works good. And then guardian ad litem is added in here. They work closely with the district court judges, so they're on the same floor. And so that's what this little dark red space is for the guardian ad litem. In terms of what it's going to look like, this is an elevation from Center Street. This is kind of from the corner of Center Street, the new parking lot. And this is from the oldest courthouse building back toward the main entrance. And this is just a bird's eye. What we tried to do is to be economical in how we laid it out, but also for it to look monumental. And we think from Center Street, when people come by the courthouse, they'll be proud of that. It'll be appropriate for a county. And, yes.
I have a question. I know you said you went to the folks there that are going to be using the space, and you consulted with them as well. Is this the same size as what the original plan was, or is it much larger, or what areas did you add more space to?
Everybody in the courtroom or courthouse, I think, got what they wanted, except for the courts. The courts wanted all 4 of those courtrooms, but again, they can grow into that over time. But the clerk got the space that he wanted or needed. The DA got the space. He just has it on 2 floors. The judges have the space, though it may take, growing into it, that's in the courthouse. And the Register of Deeds was happy. So he has his space. So we think we've got everybody handled. Again, there's got to be a little bit of growth in those courtrooms and in the judges' offices, but it's there in that building. So it's a 3-story building that should handle the needs for a while.
Bill, where is the, maybe I missed it, you probably said, I just missed it because I was looking at it. Where's the space for the attorney-client privilege? Like,
we have, I didn't mention that, see, you did miss it, but we have several small rooms that are available in locations off of the main corridor. One upstairs in the judge's office, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on this level. And then downstairs, we actually have some even downstairs. We have the possibility of at least 1, 2. So they're fairly small. They're probably 8 by 10 or something like that. But that would allow an attorney to go in with his client and talk to him outside of going into the courts.
Judge Michael, probation meets with a client. Would those rooms suffice for that as well?
Probation probably needs a dedicated room for intake. But yes, those rooms would work. Yes, they would work. But they probably need a dedicated room to do intake. That they don't have to.
So we can get more information.
But you've got the space there if we needed to dedicate a room.
Yeah, I just need to know exactly what they need, and we'll see what we can do. We understood probation was in another building, so we didn't really go see that probation folks. But But if we need to have a room, satellite room in the courthouse, we've got space in the oldest part that we could probably add to give him what he needs. We just need to know what that looks like. But we do have these spaces, these small spaces scattered in the courthouse, one down here, one here, on each floor, so that as you need to get to those private spaces, I don't know how you check them out. Maybe you just look in through the door window, and if nobody's in there, you go in there and lock the door behind you.
How many courtrooms does that take us to total in this complex?
You've got the five that you have now, the A, B, C, D, E. So you got those five, and you add two, so that's seven, and then two more would make it nine.
Nine.
Yeah, and if you got a real pinch, and I don't want to speak for the judges, but you do have the jury pool room. It's pretty big. You had to have some special hearing in there, but you have nine when it's finished out.
Judge Michael, how many district court judges do we have right now?
We have 6 in the district.
And then there's always one in Davie County, so we'd never have more than.
We normally have 5 here on any day.
Right.
The addition, though, of the grand jury room and jury assembly room frees up a courtroom many days. Because right now, we're having to use a courtroom for a jury assembly room.
Right.
And for the grand jury room. So, yes, I wish we had more courtrooms, and I wish you had an unlimited budget. But we can get by with this, and especially with the addition of the jury assembly room to free up the courtroom, and the knowledge that it would be possible to finish out 1 or 2 more courtrooms. I feel comfortable.
Well, what's the chances of having, I know you're district court, but what's the chances of having 2 superior courts a month in Davidson County? Because I understand we've got a population control at the jail, and then I believe felony is the problem. What would be the chances of having that? Do you even know?
I don't want to try to speak for Superior Court or for the District Attorney's Office. We could do that and do 2 at the same time.
Right. Could we facilitate that now?
If they have the personnel to do.
Right. But do you think we could make that happen now, move some stuff around and try to do that to alleviate?
Yes.
With current conditions, okay.
And in fact, Mr. Frank and I talked today about ability to add additional criminal days and some additional plea days for H&I felonies and things.
Right. That way we could alleviate our.
It's going to be crowded if we do it now.
Right.
And I'm probably going to have to cancel some other district court in order to get some more felony pleas done.
Right.
And so it's a little bit of a problem right now, but this will accommodate it very well.
Are we using the 2 courtrooms in Thomasville?
We use, when I have court in Thomasville, it takes both courtrooms to do 1 court. Because of those courtrooms are small, I can't get everybody in 1 courtroom. So normally when I have court in Thomasville, I'm using both courtrooms just to do 1 court.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
And this would relieve that a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. Now, but after we get through with this, we'd shut the courtrooms down in Thomasville, right?
We could.
Okay.
We could.
We don't.
No, we just.
Possibility of that.
That'd be judge's call.
Well, when I meant we, I just meant that could happen. I didn't say us
I mean,
as a board.
There is, well, it's a joint decision because you own the building, so.
No, we don't set the court, we don't set the docket.
That.
That's gonna be your baby, Judge.
The ability is in there, and also the ability to, shift some other smaller courts to those courtrooms and some other functions.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the space that we have now pretty much aligns with the, space needs study that we had done prior so far as what we need for square footage for each one of the, people. And we had some other plans that had more square footage, and we narrowed it down to, what we could afford. if we can afford what we got here, but, we did have some that was much larger than that, but this does give everybody the square footage. It was in the 50,000, or the square footage plan that we did.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Commissioner Elliott.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got a question, just to make sure off of what Fred's saying, so, you consulted everybody, this meets the space needs study, and it meets future expansion needs, not all of it, because we can't afford to have all of it, but it at least gets us to where we need to be right now, and a little bit of wiggle room going into the future, is that correct?
Yeah, you know, I've got empty, see, if you're defining future as empty space, I've got empty space for Superior District Court, judges, and I've got empty space for courtrooms. What we have for the other departments are what they needed to function for a long time.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that's 10 years or, you know, but I don't have any extra space. Now, if you remember, the way this scheme works is there would be another building built here to handle future beyond what this handles. But I don't have empty space except for the judges and the courtrooms.
Okay.
Now, there'll be some empty space, you know, in and around where the original courthouse was, and there's some empty space on the first floor back in behind where the register of deeds is. So there are empty spaces there that we're not creating, it's just there.
I think we felt like without a crystal ball, that this probably carries us 20 years into the future. So,
Really?
you know, after that, who knows what technology will be.
That's right.
What, you know.
Exactly. So again, I felt pretty good about it as we went from department to department, you know, and they said, because we asked them, what do you need? And even when we compare it to the first effort, which was a bigger building, the first effort had probably more empty space for future. That's probably the biggest difference. And the fact that we built all those courtrooms in the first slide. So that was the biggest difference. But yeah, I think we handled the need for a while.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I?
Yes, sir.
Do you know how many parking spots you've got after you get through with that, roughly?
I know it's probably about 8 more than you have now.
Okay, because I know it's cramped down there now. All right, the next question that I heard 20 years. Are we going to have to do something in 20 years down there again? Not counting the jail, but just the courthouse part.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that, let's say, for example, you get, the state decides that we're going to do public defender. I don't have a public defender space in this building. So if that is laid out to the counties, we're going to have to deal with that. And that may be that there are other buildings around that you could put the public defender in and it'd be fine. I'm just saying, I don't have anything here for that, and that's one of those things that might be dropped on the county.
Yeah.
I also, and I apologize, but I think the game could change in 20 years too with technology. We might not need as much space as we would have in this building.
What I'm looking at is, the next question is, how did we go from 17 million to 29.62 million? And if that's the case, then we're looking at $1.5 million a year for 20 years, in order to pay that back. So, but how did we get from, I mean, we're talking 12-point-something million dollars more than what we had expected.
When we did the original estimate, we used 2017 numbers, because that's when we started. So we used 2017 numbers, and we did that knowing that it was probably going to take 3 years to get to World War II anyway, but at least we had a date certain, and so we used that number based on that. Well, 2018 in our industry was 18%. And then we've got to project for almost 2 years going forward at about 2.5% to 3%. So that's what's built in that number. I would have, if you took my 17 or our 17, Dan was part of it, and sure he gets his credit. And you run, the 18 and the 2.5 and the 2.5 as it builds up, I would have still been low, but I would have been much closer. It would have been, much closer. But again, it wouldn't be that far off. And of course, the Barnhill numbers are going to be much better than ours. but they did it, with the contractors, they got a better handle on that. But anyway, that's what happened.
Well,
I could have guessed, but if I had guessed in 2017 what it would be in 3, I would have used 18%, I promise you.
but at 18%, well, actually at 20%, that's only $3.4 million, but we've went up 12 million.
Yeah, again, if you do that, and then you do the 1.3 or 1.25 on top of that, and then you do it one more time, it begins to get up there.
I still don't see 12, but,
But again, I would use the numbers that I had.
is the superintendent gone, Common Core math? I'm just making a joke.
Well, it's hard.
I'm not so sure 18% will cover the increase either from 2016, 17 till now. With the increase in steel that we've had, I mean, everything's gone up. Labor, construction projects is just out the roof right now, so everybody's busy. They got more
And
to
we
do.
were too, basing this off of, the original study was like 68,000 square feet. This, that we're presenting now is at 85.
Yeah, so you do have a little more.
It did increase as well, so.
As a lot of those kinds of things get in, I don't ever like to miss it. I try real hard not to, but that's kind of somehow that happens.
Where did that increase come in at, Dan? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, is that on the third floor, finishing out the third floor?
Any of the future would be extra. We wouldn't have any.
Right, but I'm saying from 60-some thousand, so Ms. Watford here would know, Mr. Elliott.
Yes.
Where that extra part came in, because you made that comment from the 60,000 to the 80.
That's the reason I was asking if this is, because, and, you know, when I was in the school system, they came to us sometimes and asked us what we needed, and we needed this, but we didn't get everything that we thought we needed, if that makes sense.
Well, we would not have, for example, in that initial number, anticipated 8 judges in the district court or in superior court. So that extra space is some of those numbers.
Yeah, there's some other things too, as far as the grand jury, they've never had.
Right.
So that was completely new, and the jury pool room they never had.
Yeah, see, we would have assumed if you've been running court for 100 years, you would have had a jury pool and a grand jury room. And we got into the program, didn't have that, hadn't had that, need that. So we've got that now. And so those are the kinds of things that go beyond math that you're talking about.
What square footage of that jury pool room that you got set aside?
How big is it? It holds 100 people in chairs. And it goes back to here, so, you know, in terms of square footage.
That portion there holds 100 people?
Yeah, in chairs.
What is the average, jury pool, Judge? You know, I don't know.
In approximate figures, they usually summons about 120 people. Quite a few get screened out early because they are in nursing homes or whatever. So there's some that get screened out early.
That's where I'm going to, y'all.
Probably, our best estimate was that between 75 and 100 is about the most who usually show up in person. And so 100, I think, is large enough. I don't think it needs to be any larger than that. Sometimes it'll be smaller.
Yeah, and we talked about the 120, and do we need 120? And Bill Michael helped us say, no, 100's what you need.
Well, might actually show up now because they want to be in this new courthouse.
And another thing too, I think we was looking at when we discussed the 17 million or part of that, that was a bird's eye view at that time. You know, we still hadn't dug into the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, we had not done programming until after we met with the commission.
And that was kind of like all of our different options that we looked at, all of them was from a bird's eye view. We still had to get in there and dig in and see what this is gonna be, but I think y'all have done an excellent job of this, and everybody involved with the programming and all. It's a good looking building, and it looks like y'all use about every space that you can for good purpose, so not much wasted space.
And once we, you know, kind of get into drawing it up and putting it at scale, a lot of this is hand-drawn. We'll go back through one more time and talk to everybody to be sure that we've done exactly what they want. Turk is working on some ideas for his space now, so again, we think we'll have it really close on.
Yeah, just for information, whenever we started off with this, we have gone through A, B, C, D, E, and F. So the commissioners have really looked at some different options and some different plans and some different square footage. And up until the time that we decided to program, we were just estimating the different square footage and where the people would go and that kind of thing. So the commissioners have taken a great deal of pain to try to get and tweak as much as possible and still get the folks that needed the square footage, according to our plans that we had, the square footage that they needed. And this is as close as I've seen us get.
That looks good.
Well, you know, Todd, you and Mr. McClure are the only two, I guess, that was on the facilities committee. Does this,
We've been through a lot.
and this
We've been through
this
a
is
lot.
about what you wanted out of it?
Yes, this is nice.
And what was the high dollar one? How much was the one that we were looking at that was the most expensive? How much was it?
$60 million, yeah, 55.
Oh, the high one on the first group? Yeah, it was 60 million.
$60 million.
So we have done a lot of work to get it down to where we are. And I think you've done an excellent job on the presentation of the building to Center Street as well. And that was one of the things that we were worried about.
So I guess tonight what we need to do is direct staff to bring some numbers back here, don't we?
Well, one last thing real quick. Bill, you've said this before, but when could we have a jail completed, where we're gonna put it at the post office? 2025, is that what you said?
Finished, it would probably get us there. I don't know if you can give me the date of when the land's available. It'll take 18 to 2 years to build the jail. What you could do is, once this gets started, whether it's us or somebody else, you could start planning for the jail.
Right, yeah.
So that it's ready on the day you get.
To demo and build, yeah. But 2025 is what we're looking at. But Casey, if we're looking at debt and we're looking at 30 million here, and it's probably gonna be over that because of overruns and stuff. And then we're looking
No,
at.
we're not gonna have no over stuff.
Well, everything else we do around here, it seems that way, doesn't it? But if we're looking at let's say 33 million for this, and then we're how much for a jail, 40 million, 45 million? Is what your numbers then, so if we go by these, if we add in the inflation and all, we're really at like 75 million, plus the 30-some million now, we're carrying over $100 million of debt in the next next few years. Is the county capable of handling that?
No.
So, but right now, and I know we're getting the sheriff's gonna come in on February 7th and talk to us, but the state's on us about doing something with the jail sooner than later. And if the state shuts us down with that jail, we're gonna have a large expense, a monthly expense of transporting inmates around to house them.
Now, that's all this stuff
Well,
right now.
but-
We just want to concentrate on, is this what we want the courtroom to look like or not? And if we have to get to the point where we have to do some other things, we have to do some other things. But, to say that this is gonna cost us 33 million is just a shot in the dark. I mean, it may not cost us but 29 million, which is what they proposed. But I think we really need to deal with what we're looking at here without supposing all of this stuff in the future.
Right.
We're gonna get the post office in 2022, and if we tack 2 years onto that, they're talking about 2024 instead of 2025. And if you back that up 6 months, if you can do it in 18 months, now you're talking about 2023 and a half. So, I mean, we can only do what we can do, and I think that in the past, the folks at the state, as far as the jail is concerned, as long as you're making an effort, they're willing to work with you on that.
I'm asking that we just wait till February 7th and hear from the sheriff what he's got to say about the jail needs before we direct anything else. That's all I'm saying.
Well, when we talking about the figures, that's what we just asked the staff to do, to bring us some financial figures back.
Yeah, and that's on the courthouse.
That's right.
That's on the courthouse. We can't do much about the jail until we see what we got.
Here's the deal, we're gonna have to do both. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna have to do both.
Eventually, yeah.
I mean, you know, you can't keep kicking the can down the road on the courthouse. Right. And you can't keep kicking the can down the road on the jail.
Not as I can.
You gotta start taking them and biting off a little bit at a time and getting this stuff done, because this courthouse gave us a lot of use since 1958, so some work's gotta be done there. No other option.
Yeah, and hopefully that the folks out there at Eggers, now that they're in that space out there, we'll sell that place out in the next, 5 or 6 years, and we'll have another
Right.
$10 or $12 million coming in. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can, but you can't really plan on.
Yeah, I always believe if and buts was candy and nuts, it'd be Christmas all year long.
The what?
I said if and buts was candy and nuts, it'd be Christmas all year long, going along with what
Yeah,
you're
well, you
saying.
missed Christmas, fella. This is January.
Okay, do we need a consensus here, or do we need a vote?
Do we need to vote?
What are we voting on? Do we have
Staff
some?
don't have staff to bring back some figures for.
What are we wanting to do, Zell?
Well, we'll come back later, you know, 'cause it is a significant investment, and to give y'all some numbers to base your decision off of. I know we got Barnhill who's presented us with a contract which we can figure in to do the design work, and I think that was
About $2 million.
about $2 million, you know, which we've always trying to figure out. They gave us a cash flow statement. I'm starting to talk like the accountant that I am, so we can space it out over the year, see, you know, 'cause we've got $1 million in that account from when we started up there. And so maybe, you know, we could use that cash till we got to July 1st. But still, we need to show you the impact on the budget next year to move forward, see if that's what the board truly wants to do. Am I correct, Mr. Smith?
That is correct. Well, we're a little bit ahead. We're still in the bullet points from the retreat tonight, basically. So we're gonna come to you. We've kind of preemptively showed you what the capital plan looked like, maybe what that would call for, building in some of the estimates, the early estimates about the jail. So Commissioner McClure's got a good point. We won't know any of those answers for quite some time. But it is good to get it in a plan, get something going. But for this particular project here, you know, we covered the first 17 already in the budget, set aside money to pay back in the budget this year. So now we've got to find a way to do the additional parts to get us to 29. Can we do it within 54 cents? I assume is the magic question. And we won't know the definitive answer until June.
I'm glad you said that, because that's obviously the elephant in the room. I'm like Commissioner Yates. These things are gonna have to be, you know, faced sooner than later. We've already got this far on this building. I don't feel like stopping's gonna do the citizens or us any good. Matter of fact, if you get through this building at 54 cents, you've pulled a rabbit out of your hat, and I think you're doing a fantastic job, the entire board. At 54 cents for everything that this county's got, including a new school, I think this board has done a tremendous job. But we must, as the board, look forward at things that we're just gonna have to do, because maintenance is cumulative, and our needs are cumulative, and they're only gonna continue to grow. And the longer we put them off, they're gonna cost the citizens and us more. So, I mean, I appreciate the job that you're doing, Casey, but I am like Commissioner Yates and the rest of the commissioners. I feel like, you know, none of us want to increase taxes ever, and we're gonna try to do everything that we can to keep it at 54 cents, but eventually we're gonna have to look at something and say, this is what we need, and this is how much it's gonna cost.
The basic timeline of events would be, and I won't go through all of it, but since Dan's here, you know, if we kind of move forward with the 2 million parts, the soft cost of engineering, we kind of set that in motion here soon, meaning tonight or relatively soon hereafter. What that does is get us on a timeline to try to get, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm saying anything out, 6 months before you get us, I guess, the hard locking in the 29.5 million, all the engineering documents and stuff. That puts us at around July, if my math's right. So
July or August timeframe, then we've got to go to the local government commission to ask for approval to borrow these funds. We'll have to get a bond counsel on, financial advisors, because that's what you gotta do when you're borrowing this kind of money. And that puts us, hopefully, if all that timeline works out, because the LGC will want to see those bids. You can get bids at that time, you can award them, and we can get them down there. I think it's a selling the actual debt sometime, maybe this fall. And as you guys know, the stock market is a hit or miss. I mean, when you sell debt, sometimes winter's a good time. It may be this time it's the fall. I don't know. And I won't know until I get further down the line. But I guess the point is, if this is a project that we're gonna move forward with what's represented there, you know, probably it is a good, you run the risk of something happening either way. If you wait, costs could go up. And it puts the timeline even further back. And so it's kind of, but I won't know definitively about obviously the current tax rate until a few months from now.
I want to thank Chris for his comments there too. Now, do we have consensus to direct staff to bring some financial figures back? Some kind of...
Well, I guess the question is moving further for that, and Bill, maybe you can help me with this. I mean, we want to move, if you want to move forward with there's already a project budget for this. It doesn't match 29, obviously. We can amend that at any time. But do we want to go ahead and move forward with some of this design work with Barnhill? That kind of sets in motion, if you see what I'm saying, the whole chain of events. Obviously, you could design the building and still back out of that if something were to happen. But it sets in motion.
You wouldn't want to spend $1 million or $2 million designing it.
You wouldn't, I wouldn't think so, but if something happened,
The question to the board is, do y'all want to move through, do y'all like this design? Do y'all want to go ahead and vote to approve $1 million of the 2.9 or whatever we got in our budget to start the design process? Do y'all feel good enough with this design? I mean, we're gonna have to build it one way or the other.
Probably you get a second on that if you...
I think we should wait till February the 7th and hear from the sheriff before we do that.
We can't put a jail in this building. There's no way to put a jail in this building. We can either build a courthouse or we can build a jail, but we can't do both of those. And we have already heard from several different sources that the main department that is the biggest pressure department is the clerk. And we can't, if we build a jail, then we can't deal with the clerk. So we've taken all of this into consideration when we're trying to do this. The plan is to look at the jail for where the post office is whenever it becomes available. Two things will happen. One is we hopefully will get some more economic development in. Eggers will start paying some money. I don't know when the reval is, but that's in there. So, I mean, you know, there are some things that's down the road that we can utilize to build a jail. But February the 7th, if the sheriff comes in, we're not going to be able to decide on the jail because he's not going to tell us whether he wants direct supervision or indirect supervision or how many people that he wants to be able to house in that jail right now and what kind of space he's going to need in the future. I mean, that's when we plan a jail.
Commissioner Yates, if I can, maybe what's coming, we don't need any additional money at the moment because we've got a budget there, so we can deal with Barnhill's $2 million. What I would suggest though is we're gonna need whatever contract comes from Barnhill to get approved obviously by this board. So I don't know if that's available I don't know about tonight, but maybe at the next meeting. And another thing we need to go ahead and put on that meeting, and Commissioner Watford and Commissioner Elliott, this is more for you all to, I think the rest of you been through this. We have what we call a reimbursement resolution. We did this with the sheriff's office, we did it with the high school. And we're allowed to, you guys approve that sets in motion also any money we front, we can pay ourselves back when we sell the debt down the road. So if you don't mind, we could couple those two things together and put it on an item. And that'll set in motion the next phase, which is getting back the definitive hard cost, I guess, which is we hope to be right around $29.5 million.
So what we really need tonight is a motion
consensus to
move
forward with that. We'll bring it forward.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to direct the staff to put financing options together and bring it back to the board. Is there a particular time, Casey?
We plan to do it the next meeting. I think, can we have the documents available there?
Street, or you gonna do it at a regular board meeting?
If y'all are ready for that, we can just bring it to the next board meeting. So it kind of cancels out a big part of what we were going to talk about at the retreat. We may touch on it again as it wraps up into everything, but we're kinda handling it now.
Is my motion an acceptable motion?
Are you talking the 12th of February or the 7th?
How long will it take you to do it? Can you do it, bud?
I guess that kinda depends on,
We can do it on the seventh.
we can do it on the seventh?
Yes, sir. Information meeting.
We can do it on the informational meeting, that's fine. 'Cause I think some of these documents are drawn up.
Okay.
That's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, do I have a second to Mr. Shields' motion?
Second.
All right, got a motion second, if you cast your vote, and that's the,
Now, I'm gonna be Karen, and Karen's gonna be me, Debbie.
that's right.
So watch how you say.
Karen, you see what, the county commissioner does too?
You ain't seen my skirt, have you?
All of the votes
Fred,
are
you're looking a
in,
whole lot better.
and that motion carries 6-1.
Fred, you
Waiting on
voted against
somebody
it.
else to second that.
You voted against it.
Huh?
You voted against it.
Not me.
No.
Karen, good having you down here, okay? Glad to have you back, Fred.
Yeah, bro. Glad to be back. Had to leave my skirt down there, though.
Y'all wanna get this stuff out the way and, yeah.
All right, next up is the, approval of the revised lease for the ABC store and the sublease for the ABC store location.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, what you got with you is the revised lease, there's some, amendments have been made per the request of the board and the sublease to the ABC board. The attorney here has looked over it and he can help me, he says he won't, but he'll help me answer questions. So with that, I'll throw it out there for y'all to discuss and give us direction or approve the lease or disapprove the lease.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes, sir.
When we were last before the board and considered this, retail space lease agreement, the board approved the terms and conditions of that lease agreement subject to 3 conditions. And so we come back before the board tonight to talk about the satisfaction of those conditions. And I think it would be appropriate then, because there has been language which has been added to the proposed lease, for the board to consider the document that's in front of you. Could I ask Mr. Meredith to come up? If
Yes,
that
sir,
would be acceptable?
yeah. Kenny?
And I'll go ahead and start if I might, because the, one of the conditions that was specifically requested or was directed, for this lease was the addition of a non-appropriation clause. And that language has been added, following negotiation with counsel for the landlord. That language was added and appears on subsection E on page 4. The document that you have in front of you tonight is the same document that I sent out to the board, last week. Mr. Meredith, there were 2 other conditions, if memory serves me, that the board set at the time that it considered the lease previously. One of those was, I think, the approval by the state ABC board of the location. What is the status of that?
That was approved on December 12th.
Okay.
From the state board.
And I believe that the third element, or third condition, was that there would be approval of loan funding.
Yes.
Approval of what? I didn't.
The loan funding.
Okay.
And we are tentatively scheduled to close on the loan on Friday, subject to the review council of the loan documents. But we do have the commitment letter.
So, Mr. Chairman, I believe at this point, the conditions which the board had set for the retail space lease agreement by which the county would rent this property have been satisfied, and would respectfully tender the lease again to the board for consideration and approval. It may be easiest if the board were to consider and approve this, and then we talk about the sublease with the ABC board.
Okay. Does that, the questions you asked?
The sublease is what we're.
Okay. So.
Is that correct? The sublease was the reversionary clause?
The non-appropriation clause actually is.
That's in this one?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that does.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve that, Mr. Chairman, if you're looking for a motion.
Okay, do I have?
second that.
Got a motion and a second, if you'll cast your vote.
How quick can you get that thing open?
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 7-0.
I hardly is, as early as June first, but probably in reality, July first.
Okay.
Let's get this,
That's the design process.
okay, Mr. Attorney, now to sublease.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, there is a second document which is before the board for consideration tonight entitled Retail Space Sublease Agreement. And basically, this places the ABC Board in the shoes of Davidson County. And so the majority of the language in the lease and the responsibilities that are on the county under the original lease are then transferred to the Davidson County ABC Board. Pursuant to North Carolina law, there is a statutory obligation when there is a lease of 10 years or less to follow certain procedure, and that has been satisfied by the notice that the clerk has given that has been published in the dispatch entitled Notice of Sublease of County Leased Property. It has to describe the property, it has to state the annual rental or lease payments, and it has to announce the board's intention to authorize the lease at its next regular meeting. And all of that is done, which is within the notice. This has been tendered to the board previously. It has not been formally considered by the board. I would certainly be glad to answer any questions or to certainly defer to Mr. Meredith with regard to the terms of that sublease.
Are there any questions on the sublease to?
No questions, just comment.
Okay.
We need the insurance policy showing Davidson County as additional insured. Isn't that correct, Mr. Fry?
Yes, sir. There's,
Also would like to say that you need to carry fire legal liability on that building, to the extent that we would be responsible for if it burned.
yes, sir. Mr. McClure is quite correct. Under Section 9 of the sublease, it says that in each case where the prime landlord is required to be named as an additional insured, sub-landlord, which is the county, will be named as an additional insured. So that is specifically an obligation of the ABC Board.
Also the fire legal liability.
Are there any other questions that anyone has, or any comments?
Mr. Chairman, if you're ready for a motion, I'll make one.
I'm ready for the motion.
Got a second.
Got a motion and a second to approve?
Verbally, sir?
Oh,
Verbally, say?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the sublease. All in favor say aye. Opposed? So the sublease is approved.
Good luck.
We'll get to work.
y'all can stock that stuff at my house before you open if you want to.
If we get to additional space, we'll call.
There you go with that Christmas stuff again.
Right. Well, you know, we're talking about ifs and buts.
Thank you. All right, our next item, our last item, presentation of the comprehensive annual financial report, Jane Kiker. Well, I said last, it's not the last.
Good evening.
Yeah, we got another one.
This is the comprehensive annual financial report and the compliance report. This is, for the state and federal grants. I would like to introduce Cassie Wilson with Martin Starnes and Associates.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'll try to be brief and we'll just hit the highlights from the audit. And this is from June 30th, 2018. So it would be for that fiscal year. Do you have the presentation? Sorry, I don't want to.
It's shut down.
Not to rush you.
We've done an update on my computer and it just shuts things down when you get tired, I guess.
Technology's only great when it works, right?
I'll do the same
Do you want to run it or would you like me to?
I can if you want. Okay, we issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. So that means it's a clean opinion on the actual financial statement report. Your reporting for the compliance is separate. Your county chooses to bind that separately, which is acceptable either way, together or separate. So this is just speaking of the actual financial statements. If you have any questions about the compliance report, we can discuss that as well. Just to remind you some of the changes that happened during the year. So as you're looking at your financial statements, I just want to remind you, there was the implementation of GASB 75, which is your OPEB, the other post-employment benefit. That was the new standard that followed after our ledgers, our retirement, and then our LEO, which is for the law enforcement officers, and now this is the OPEB year that was implemented in there. So you will see a restatement on the full accrual statements that are in your report, which is reflective of that, and those are numbers that came to us from the state that had to be reflected. For transparency purposes, that was what they had implemented. During the last presentation for the prior year, we discussed the changes that were coming for the single audit, and there was a significant impact for that. So we want to remind you that the 2017 was tested under the single audit reporting, where things were different on your schedule of expenditures of federal and state awards. Some of those direct benefits came off, and that reporting changed significantly. The requirements for the amount of major programs and the thresholds for that changed. So you will see that when you look through your compliance report, there are additional programs that we tested. So 2017, we only had 5 major programs. This year, we had 10 programs. So I want to definitely take a moment to thank your finance department, your DSS, and all of their hard work. They saw us quite a few times. They heard from me a lot, and they really worked hard to get everything that we needed. They answered the questions. There was a lot of discussion and on some of the new programs that we hadn't tested before. So there was a lot of changes, and they handled it very well, considering, you know, some of the programs had never hit that threshold before of being a major program. And so that's something that they all were exposed to this year, getting ready and doing that. And next year, we do expect to see other programs that haven't been tested have to be picked up for testing too. So we just, you know, they're prepared for that. We've spent a lot of time talking about that. And during the planning phases going forward, that's discussions we'll have with them as well. So we did see a significant increase on that, not just DSS, but finance programs as well were picked up to meet our state threshold testing requirement. So to get into the numbers, the general fund summary is on this slide, and so we will see that the 2017 numbers compared to the 2018 numbers for revenues and expenditures. We'll break them down further on a few slides coming up, but the revenues did decrease and the expenditures decreased as well. We'll talk about what affected those changes. So your total revenues for the general fund was $139,744,441, and the expenditures totaled $125,399,548. The general fund fund balance increased. So although you had some changes in there, in total, your fund balance went up for the general fund. This does not include that revaluation fund that you have in there. But you do have a significant increase there from 2017 to 2018, $7,440,412. The general fund is looked at by the LGC in a different aspect when they're comparing units to one another, so they always want to look at that available fund balance calculation that they have. This is that calculation broken down, the non-spendable, which is your inventory and prepaids, the stabilization by state statute requirement, and then that brings your available fund balance for 2018 to $63,510,172.
What is that percentage?
It's on the next, we'll talk about that on the next one. So that is an increase from 2017. So not only did your fund balance go up, but you were able to, that available fund balance that the LGC likes to see, increased as well. So this is that percentage that they look at. So when you look at the available fund balance to the general fund expenditures, and that includes the transfers out to the other funds as well, you had, for 2018, it ended at the 47.77%, which was about a 6% increase there, which is always something that they look at in your population group, to compare you with other units. But again, it goes back to what each unit needs, and not every unit in a population group offers the same stuff as the other. So comparisons sometimes are skewed when they just look at that, but to see that growth is always positive to them.
It's quite a bit.
This is one of the slides that we keep in your presentation that I believe you like to see as well, just comparing you in that population group for Davidson County versus the average. And so this has some of those highlights in there, your available fund balance, that percentage that we just talked about as well, and then your property tax rate, the collection percentage, and then the breakdown of that between motor vehicles and non-motor vehicles. And then, of course, you have to remember that this average information for the population group is a year back. So what we're looking at for you is kind of skewed, because once all this reporting actually comes in and they can provide us this information, it's a year back. So for the average information, this is June 30th, 2017. So it's still a year back on that. But again, it just depends on, high end versus low end of your needs.
Can you explain the second number there, the average general fund balance as a percent of the general fund expense? I mean, I get it, but for clarification, can you tell why those two numbers would be so off?
For Davidson County, it being the 47.77%. So basically, you've been able to keep your available fund balance up. When they look at your available fund balance and they break out what your stabilization by state statute, that restricted amount is, and they compare that. So you may have less in that category. Therefore, your available fund balance might be higher, or it might be skewed because of the expenditures of some of those other units are higher. And again, that goes back to each unit, has various needs.
Right.
Commissioner Krotz, if I can, that also includes large counties who carry much smaller percentages. So remember that. Mecklenburg, Wake County, they carry much, because their percentage of their budget of $1 billion is a lot of money. So it says 100,000 above. It's sometimes a lot of times when we give you stuff like this too, we try to look at, they have population group just for us. And so this happens to be 100 above. One more thing about the 47 too, while I'm talking to the mic. Remember, we took a significant portion of that cash and moved it over to the radio system. So we're today, that's actually behind today. We're probably slightly lower. Of course, we're about to finish this year up and see what happens. But I just wanted you all to remember that we did move a lot of money over to the radio system to make that happen.
Got another question too, and I have to answer this question every year. Our collection percentage is a fair amount lower. Can you explain why that is?
That'd actually be a jury award question, probably more than me. The motor vehicles he's got is 100% there. Of course, a lot of that's done by the state. But jury'd have to help me with the 96.7.
The 96.7, that was current year collection.
2016, 20.
That would be for,
2018.
June 30th, 2018.
Okay. Because when you add the motor vehicles in with it, it jumps up to the 99.2%. And I think across the county, if you were to compare Davidson County at the 96.77, we would compare to them. I know that says 99.23, but that's awfully close. I'm questioning why that's so similar without motor vehicles and motor vehicles. But I think our collection rate is coming up. We've been working hard on that with the delinquents and foreclosures, and that has indirectly impacted that current year collection. So we're going to keep working hard to get that up It has been very low in the past.
That seems really high for the average, 99.28. I mean, that's just about everybody, I mean.
Yeah, and then then it says without motor vehicles, it's still, it's, 0.7% difference, so. But,
I think over time, though, we get closer to the 99, 'cause these guys keep pounding and trying to collect it, but in the current year.
yeah.
I think it's amazing that you get even be close, considering the abandoned properties out here and the properties that we don't want, because it's gonna cost the citizens more money to take them than it would be to just leave them alone. But, I mean, how do you respond to the 97% of the people who pay property taxes and then the few who don't, but, it's.
Well, I think our foreclosure program is, like I said, it's indirectly impacted some of this, and it's helped tremendously. And I think we'll continue to see improvement in the future and get us up more in line with some of the other counties in the state.
And the
But
other
it just
counties
takes
have
time.
that same issue too, I mean,
Yeah.
they got the same problem.
That's the reason I find that, I'm a little suspicious of those 99 when they say that 99.
Yeah, that's a little funny.
I don't have any percentages, but I can tell you just dollars wise, nominally, I have seen an increase since we started this foreclosure program down there in town. I mean, you can just notice it, more better, so that's helped.
Has the dollars really increased a lot?
Yeah.
Can you think?
Jerry actually had dollars wise, a really good year last year bringing delinquent stuff in.
I had a big, somebody that owns a bunch of rental properties actually complained to me this past week and said that, your predecessor would kinda let them slip and then would, waive some of their penalties if they would pay and catch it up. And he said, the new guy don't let me do that. And I said, well, good, he shouldn't.
I can tell you when I have a camera watching the counter and I see these elderly people coming up, especially these little ladies, come in and take their rain bonnet off and they're digging their purse for money to pay their taxes. So I don't think it's fair that, large property owners or multi-property owners get a break.
No, not when they got millions of dollars worth of stuff, so.
And, that includes my mom.
Yeah.
They worried about paying their taxes, they paid July, so I'm looking at you.
But at the same time, the things you do, by giving them a chance to pay it in increments and these type things, help everybody.
Really big.
And I think that's a good program.
Dig into that a little bit, Jerry, and see what you can find out, see.
Yeah, that's a little funny, but, we're making progress. It's
Yeah, I
gonna
know
take
you
time,
are.
it takes a lot of money to move that
Needle.
fraction of a percent.
Okay, moving right along.
Thank you.
You all right?
So when we look at the categories of revenues for the general fund, your property taxes are 55%, which is usually that largest percent. Your sales and other taxes is 23%, intergovernmental 14%, which is your federal and state grants. And then your other revenue being 8%, and that other revenue being comprised, you'll see there listed, the license and permits, charges for services, interest on investments, miscellaneous, and then what your total top three revenues comprise 92%, there. So these are pretty similar to the prior year, except for the fact that, the intergovernmental changed. That change we'll talk about when we talk about that one specifically compared to last year, and I'll explain what happened with your federal and state grants. So property taxes, for 2018, June 30th, 2018, ended at $76,392,561. It's about a 1.2 million increase there. The intergovernmental revenue, there's a significant decrease. That decrease about a little over 5 million. The federal and state grants changed significantly. We had, just from the DSS side of things, there was NCFAS, the system implemented, and that's taken on additional programs each year. So some of the child care payments that were being made through the county, and you were seeing the revenue come in and then having expenditures on the outside, you'll see the expenditures changed as well. That no longer flows through the county, so that's being paid directly by the state. So therefore, you're not getting those grants coming through here, and that's why we see such a significant decrease. So the child care, there's transportation payments that are now being paid directly by the state versus coming through the county. So the implementation of the new software and the changes that they made, and you'll probably see continuing changes as they change how they're reporting and how payments are being made and things becoming more electronic for them as well. So that's why we have such a significant change there for intergovernmental. Your local option sales tax, your other taxes and license. This is the breakdown from 2017 to 2018, and I know you like to look at that quarter cent tax separately, so we have that in a separate column on here. So you have an increase there from 2017 to 2018 for your taxes in total, and then of course that small increase for your quarter cent sales tax as well. The general fund expenditures, those major categories, education continues to be a major category of 29%, public safety at 22%, human services at 21%, and then your other expenditures at 28%. And I have, in the other expenditures, that includes the general government, your environmental protection, the economic and physical development, culture and recreation, and debt service. Again, these percentages were pretty comparable except for the change with the human services and how that impacted the change in percentages of weight between the categories, but that's what impacted this the most.
Is all debt services and other expenditures? So what about the debt services like on the schools? We're still paying on a school. Would that be over in education or is that over in other expenses?
No, we keep those separate. That reporting is still separate in here because it's a separate section in your actual financial statement.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So education, not including the debt services for that. In 2018, you had an increase, so that ended at $36,407,384,000. For human services, again, the decrease is reflected there from the changes in the state's impact on it. So that ended at $26,588,059. And then public safety had an increase for 2018, and it ended at $28,060,704. Looking at debt specifically, there are a few things that you like to see when you're looking at your debt during this presentation. So we include your outstanding debt total at $167,248,633. The debt margin allowed, and then your debt service that you had for the total year is there again as well. That debt margin is the percentage that's assessed, the value of the tax property less the debt that's applicable to the debt limit that's already there. And this does exclude component units.
So your per capita, the smaller the number, the greater the debt? Is that, or is it opposite?
It's the opposite.
Okay, so we're 89 out of 100 counties, the highest debt.
No, we're about half everybody else.
Okay.
Our debt's about half of whatever per capita, whatever. We're paying only $89 per person for debt.
Okay.
The other people are paying almost twice that.
Okay, that's where I was thinking 100 counties were, okay, sorry.
It's not that easy to read at times. Okay, so for the enterprise funds, looking at landfill and sewer together, this breaks down what your unrestricted cash is, the net position, and then what the net income is, which is GAAP, your full accrual, looking at all aspects of your full accrual pieces in there, depreciation and everything. So your net income in total, as well as your net position, did increase.
I got a question right quick for Zeb. Zeb, why don't we break this out, and that's what I was looking for now. So we see what the sewer's doing, and so we see what.
We do in the financials.
Is
In
it-
this little summary, I don't think they do, but in the financials, it is broken out. There's a sewer fund and the landfill fund.
I know, I was trying to find that.
I think it's like $1.9 million was the income. I looked it up for the.
So this is the landfill
Yeah.
just itself for the 2 years compared, and then I have the next slide as well. So when just looking at the landfill, you have what your unrestricted net position, and so that means we have to take out what is restricted because of invested in the capital asset, the fixed assets, related to the landfill, so.
551,000 loss was the, expansion of the landfill last year. Is that what put that in the negative?
Was it that or catch up on the post-closure?
It's usually the post-closure that sways this so much. So when we have such a significant decrease, when we're looking at gap at your full accrual level, that's what happens with the landfill fund. Because you did have the addition, and then once you put all of that post-closure on there for that's what happens in the year. And then you have some of that, adjusting or accruing, and that total, post-closure gets adjusted. So it's usually the years that you have those changes and additions that affect it the most, take it into the negative. And then just looking at the sewer fund, you have your unrestricted net assets, the cash flow from your operations there, and then your net income, full accrual for that as well.
Go ahead, Jim.
Is the debt service not in that number for the sewer?
That don't look right to me.
Okay, all right, I just wanna make sure.
Looks a little high, don't it?
Yeah.
We had a transfer to a project, I think, that year, and that showed the money has not been spent, but the money was transferred over for that project.
Ah, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I think we're making that much money.
Nah, that, we ain't making that off sewer.
Sure not.
Losing money from.
Yeah, just the transfers when you have projects, so. Any questions or comments, anything else you would like for me to touch on, or any other questions on the highlights?
Any clue? Everybody seemed to be good.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I know where to find you, Jane.
Thank you.
If we can thank Jane, this putting all these numbers together in this comprehensive financial report is a lot of work. And Jane, every fall, sits in there with that light on, way after everybody's gone, sitting in there, putting numbers in his book, so it's a lot of effort. I just wanna thank her for all her hard work.
It is.
It's a good time to do it so you can think clear then, yeah.
She does work really hard.
We do thank you, Jane.
Yes.
Okay. Next item is the acquisition of additional property at Wilcox Bridge, Fort York area.
Put that map up on the screen.
Okay, guy.
Back turn around, look at the people.
In your, packet of information, you should have a map that shows you the state right-of-way that we've been in discussion with NCDOT. And the area highlighted in blue is property owned by Mr. Donald Solomon. And also, we have a 50-foot right-of-way shown that would give Mr. Solomon access out to Wilcox Way. And you can see that highlighted in green. I'm here tonight just to ask the board's permission, if and when the state receives ownership of this state surplus right-of-way, would you be agreeable to give Mr. Solomon his requested 50-foot right-of-way? If we're able to do that, then he is willing to sign the waiver of right of first refusal. That is a document that is essential, that has to be turned into DOT prior to the county receiving this additional DOT right-of-way.
Is that right away there on the right end? Yeah.
Yes, sir. That would give him access out to, Wilcox Way. He has 2 tracts that he currently owns, the one that's highlighted in blue, and then his house tract, which is, out front on, Trading Ford Way.
Okay.
And the reason he's asking for that 50-foot right-of-way is because at some time in the future, he may have an interest in, developing his property.
I see that you've got the green area that's checkered, but across the street, in the last Wilcox Bridge or Yadkin River Committee now, we had discussed, and I don't remember if we voted or not, for us to look at trying to get that area as well at the same time.
We discussed that a little bit with Mr.
There's a big portion on up the road, but there are 9 property owners that we need to work on first right of refusal forms on.
Now, I'm talking about across the,
He's talking,
talking about from the I-85 and
yeah.
29.
Yes. It is included?
I think that there,
Okay.
yeah, this is just one piece, and then we found another huge tract up on the other side of the,
Yeah, I was talking about the,
retirement home.
I was talking about this area here.
Yeah.
So that is part of this?
It can be.
I mean, I think if we're asking, I mean, and I don't know, y'all know these things better than me, but I know we had talked about that in committee, so I wasn't sure.
So I take it this piece of land's landlocked, is that what we, landlocked now, other than, I guess he could cut a right of way in from his property on the other side?
Yes, he could, right now, he owns this tract and this tract here, so he has access coming in off of, was that Trading Ford Way?
Trading Ford Way.
So, I don't think I would presently call it landlocked. I think he's indicated to Guy some interest in separating this tract from his residence. And, if he were to do so, then he would be in need of that right of way. Deb, can you flip back?
So I guess I'm trying to figure out what we getting out of it, yeah.
What we would get is.
First right of refusal, but if.
Yeah. No, sir,
We get the property.
We get that property.
Can you move up so we can see that?
We get that property in there.
At one time, there were 3 separate property owners for these tracts here. And we were looking, prior to them being acquired by Davidson County, we were looking at having to get a right of first refusal from all 3 of those property owners. And we actually, this goes back a few years, but we're looking at having to run an easement against this line all the way up here to give access to get out. Now, the county has acquired these 2 tracts, and so we have a right to go to DOT and to acquire this abandoned right-of-way, or request that abandoned right-of-way. Here, Solomon is seeking access to his property, and the fee to get that is to grant that right-of-way. Otherwise, he has the superior right than the county does to make claim for all of this property
I
from
got you,
DOT.
I got you. So we're just trying to get the right of way in front of his land.
Right, we're saying,
We'll give
if
you
you
right-
will waive your right of first refusal and let the county step in your place, then we'll give that right away now, yes, sir. Forgive me for,
You can see by that, the image she had right there, how important that piece of property can be for that boy.
But then there's also, this is where the retirement home is. While we were meeting with Mr. Ivy, there is a bigger section that's a little bit further up the road that takes you all the way up to the beginning of where Trading Ford comes off to where the monument is, up close to the monument, that we can work on those property owners once we get this done and get the next phase.
Is that Semerson, is that Semerson?
There's about 8 or 9.
Or Sowers Road, it's Sowers.
Yeah, there's 8 people that has property on that piece, adjoining that piece of property. But that was the point where we were talking about getting to where, what's the name, Miss Brownlee? Miss Brownlee has that monument at. We were trying to get there. This would give us the right to get there through the state property, but we'll have to seek them, landowners out as well and try to get them to sign one of these rights of first refusal. And then the state would gift us that piece of property as well. And it's 22 acres.
It's a big, they
It's a big piece of property.
They were not even aware that they owned it until we went up to meet with them. Pat Ivy just about fell out of his chair when he realized they owned a parcel that big off the highway. So they're more than anxious to get rid of it.
So what we need tonight is agreement to
Give him that right of way.
give him the right of way.
Give him a 50-foot right of way.
I think Mr. Corman in his letter, Mr. Chairman, has asked the board to direct me to draft a letter to Mr. Solomon stating Davidson County will grant a 50-foot right-of-way if the state transfers ownership of the state property to Davidson County.
Good, that sounds good. Sounds like a lawyer would do. Now, but we'll have to wait till we get.
Right.
And I think when we met with Mr. Ivy up there, Mr. Crotts, to answer your question on that property on the other side of the road there, Mr. Ivy said they needed to hold on to that for this time period because of some restrictions from the federal highway, because there was a certain distance or something there that they needed to look at first, and then once that cleared up, they may be able to look at giving us that too.
They
Because
have
we
so
did,
much frontage.
yeah, we did ask about that side.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion.
I make a motion that we have Chuck draft that letter.
Second.
We move forward.
All right, we got a motion and a second that we authorize our attorney to draft a letter to. Please give a vote.
I also.
I got your motion.
Okay.
Got something to tell.
Your time's up.
Thank you, guys. Well, you'll be interested in this. On the, March sixth and seventh, the State Board of Transportation will be having their monthly meeting in Division 9. Mr. Ivy is gonna bring those folks to a dinner meeting that is gonna be held at the Transportation Museum. But on their way down to, Spencer, he's considering bringing them by the Wilcox Bridge so that he can show them the progress and what we've done out there. So I thought that was a good idea to have them come by and look at that, and so he's pleased to do that.
Good.
Mr. Chairman, we need a motion for closed session.
Got a motion to go in closed session. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we're in closed session. Yes, sir. motion, go back in open session? Got a second, so we're back in open session. Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Chairman, in, closed session, the board considered one matter of real property. There was no action taken by the board. Thank you.
Motion adjourned?
Got a motion to adjourn? Got a second? All in favor, we adjourn.
Good meeting, Mr. Chairman.